What we're going to discuss today is one of the things that are always misunderstood, and that is deflection. Now, when I say deflection, unfortunately, a lot of beginners and a lot of players think that we're talking about shaft deflection. When I discuss deflection, we're talking about the cue ball deflection. Now, cue ball deflection is a whole lot different than shaft deflection. If the shaft itself doesn't bend or deflect at the moment of impact, then the cue ball will take a much greater deflection off course. So the shaft has to bend so that the cue ball will go straight. You have to make a decision, do you want the shaft to go straight or do you want the cue ball to go straight? I think you want the cue ball to go straight. So we're going to go into the details now of deflection and why it's so important. Okay, now there are three elements to deflection. First you have, and that is effective deflection. In other words, what you have to deal with as a pool player. Deflection is simply when a ball is struck off, for instance here, to the right, the cue ball will take off on a straight line to the left, depending on the technology of the particular cue to a lesser or greater extent. Once the ball is deflected off course, then the next thing that happens because it's spinning is you have a slight curve back, which is called swerve. That's the second element. Now, when it strikes the object ball, for instance, if it's spinning with right English, you then also have throwing the ball to the left. So with the combination of the three elements, deflection, swerve, and throw, the swerve and throw diminish the effective deflection because the back of the cue is elevated some just to clear the table. Now then, I'm going to show you something even more important. Okay, typically players, beginners, as they're learning to use English, they simply aim off center and hit the ball, and over a period of time, they adjust their aim to make up for the deflection. Now that's dependent on where their pivot point is or where they hold their bridge. For instance, if I were to hold my bridge at 12 inches from the tip, and I move the tip one full tip off, that's the full tip of English, you'll notice I've created about a 1-inch gap right here, or created an angle on the cue stick, which hopefully is adjusted to the shot I'm making. But what happens is, and I used to predict when top players were going to miss watching a tournament, if you have to shorten that bridge up to reach over a ball and then move it a full tip of English, you've just doubled your error because you've increased the angle by 2. Or the other condition, assuming I have to reach over a ball and shoot from a long bridge, do the very same thing, one full tip of English, you'll notice I've diminished it in half. So with those variations, if I have to use English with a cue that's got a lot of deflection, I'm in trouble, particularly in a situation where I have to change my bridge. If a cue has 0 or very near 0, the lower deflection, you no longer aim with the pivot system. You aim instead with a parallel move to the left or the right. Therefore, the way that you learn as an amateur would be, in this particular case, with a full tip of right English, I would look down the side of the shaft, but through the center of the cue ball to aim on a parallel aim. Or with left English, down the right side of the shaft, but through the center of the cue ball, again, parallel aim. It makes the game so much easier and so much more dependable.